I immediately knew that I wanted to focus on the region in which I was born and raised, the Pacific Northwest. It was only by luck that the Google search I performed on Pacific Northwest travel led me to this project. The search returned results for multiple books on almost the entire American West by a woman named Frances Fuller Victor. After doing some follow-up secondary research on Victor, I found that her most profound writing came from her descriptions in the books in Oregon and Washington, a perfect fit for my focus. Beginning in the 1860s and continuing on into the latter half of the 19th century, Frances Fuller Victor lived and traveled throughout the territories of Washington and Oregon. During her time of residency and travel, Victor, a talented journalist and poet, wrote and published several books based on her experiences and went into great detail describing the landscape, geography, history, and culture of the newly conceptualized region of the Pacific Northwest. In one of Victor's books, later published in 1891, she states, "If America is the Atlantis of Plato, or its substitute as some believe, its west coast is the oldest, or that portion which was first elevated, as geology proves. It is also, as we know, the latest to be brought under development. It is the pioneer's last view out over the oceans that encircle the known world. Henceforward, man's effort will be to restore to the earth on this favored soil the glories of the buried continent, and to substitute for Atlantis lost, Atlantis Arisen." When I began my research this summer, I was concerned with Victor's process of identity formation. I was interested in her writing because she specifically highlighted the Pacific Northwest region as being unique and superior to the rest of the nation. I wanted to see how she developed the sub-regional identity of the Pacific Northwest and how that was different or similar to the typical Pacific Northwestern characteristics that are recognized today. Also, during the course of my research, I wanted to find the reasons as to why the Pacific Northwest was so deeply significant to Victor. She holds this grandiose view and appreciation of Oregon, so I wanted to discover what it was about Oregon that was so drastically different from the rest of her experience. From these original questions, I needed to discern some intimate details about Victor's life. I wanted to see how Victor's personal writings and letters differed from her published works. Having a more personal view of her and her opinions would help to construct her true feelings about Oregon and reasons as to why she was so dedicated to her profession as a female author. Being that she was a professional woman in the 19th century, I was interested in seeing how the culture and ideologies of the 19th century had affected Victor's personal experiences. Victor's intentions in the Pacific Northwest, in addition to the most impactful experiences and situations, would help in defining Victor and the identity she ascribed to Oregon, its people, and herself. With the help of the Dean's Award, I was able to travel to Oregon and to work in the archives. The libraries at the University of Oregon and the Oregon Historical Society had collections of letters and documents by Frances Fuller Victor. Victor had donated some of her materials for interviews, newspaper articles she had collected, and a number of letters that she had donated to the Historical Society before her death in 1902. These items were collected into a self-made scrapbook, and Victor provided an opening letter to the readers. The note reads, "I have collected in this scrapbook such reviews of my historical work as chanced to fall under my eye without effort. Most of it refers to Oregon, and I am glad because it is a favorite field of mine, and because I feel that I have fairly earned all the commendation I enjoy." At the University of Oregon Library, I was able to look at correspondence between Frances Fuller Victor and Oliver Cromwell Applewhite, a member of one of the more prominent pioneer families in Oregon at the time, and one of Victor's key correspondents. The Applegate letters represented a key crossroads in my research because I found Victor extremely hard to read as a historical figure. She did not fit into 19th century categories as one would expect. The letters were more straight reporting and inquiries to Applegate rather than her personal feelings. However, she did express great admiration for Applegate, and I found that in Victor's admiration, she began to ascribe many of the characteristics to him that made him representative of an authentic Oregonian. If I've learned anything from this research, it is that biography as a frame for historical research is very complicated. It's difficult to discern a human person with all their emotions and idiosyncrasies through their historical figure and the written fragments they leave behind. We cannot really ever know these people that we attempt to write about. Dealing with human experiences is never a simple task, and often the results create more questions than answers. From the research I performed, I certainly did arrive at more questions than answers. Victor's letters were not as reflective or as personal as I had originally predicted, whereas I assumed she would engage in intimate conversations about her intentions and experiences. Victor was actually very conscious of her image. She was very guarded in her writing. Letters at that time were written with the pretense that they would be published, and I have found, through scholars and biographers of Victor, who were kind enough to share their research findings with me, there is little evidence of any private letters or other materials existing. The questions that arose made me focus on her writing itself and the things that she was trying to accomplish. Over time, I found that it wasn't so much the outward national view of the Pacific Northwest, but rather her personal endeavor to uplift the region and its people through her pen. By writing about Oregon, she could create a perfect Oregonian. Fortunately, my research has been able to continue throughout the semester, and I'm continuing to research and understand her construction of Oregon identity. And I'd just like to say a big thank you to all those